Well, well, well. Hello there. Seems like you lost your way to the Chinese opening. China is a very strong fast fortress civilization, which is most of the time the goal that you want to have for every game, that you want to reach the third age in any way possible, which is I'm going to cover this time around the Chinese fast fortress. So you start with 300 wood crates and 200 food crates. What you want to use those crates for is that you want to build a trading post pretty much immediately. And then you want to collect 80 wood for your first village. Keep in mind that the villages you can garrison inside of. So the villages you want to build near either hunts or coin mines. And on another side note, if you are on a livestock map, such as I am, where you get some water buffaloes, keep in mind that you can, in also your starting goat, that you can right click them near the village and you will see that they start to fatten up faster. Because the villages are also sort of like a livestock pen. In a sense that they... You will see here. The trigger is like very slow. One food there. Another food there. And another food there. And once the goat is there, you can see that the fatten rate is increased. That's why the village is also pretty strong. That's also why China is very strong on livestock map, because you can fatten up those water buffaloes just a little bit faster. And then... Unluckily, you see, because Ports wasn't on this trading post, I thought he was going for the southern side of the trading post. Because it is closer to his town center than this one is, that's why I went this way and not that way, if that makes sense. Because it may seem like this trading post is close to your town center, but it's really not. It's actually this one to the north or to the south, whatever side on the map you are on. So once you have gathered 80 wood, or you have gotten yourself a wood treasure and got by any means to 180 wood, you want to build your village. Once that is done, you want to get all other villagers on food, and it's going to keep that way until the very end of the age 1. Now you have two different options. You always want to send the tier export first, then you have the option to send normal refugees, or you can skip it. I most of the time recommend you to skip it because it's just 2 villagers, and you can save it for some later ages too, because it does scale, since it does give you a villager for each town center and for each village you have built. You can build a total of 6 villages and 3 town centers. This H1 card can be up to a 9 villager shipment, which is the equivalent of an H3.5 card, more or less. And once the tier export is in, you have 2 options that you want to consider. First, you want to consider if your opponent is going to be aggressive. And if he's going to be aggressive, you want to ally yourself with the Russian consulate. However, if your opponent is passive, such as Ports is, I just chose the Russian allies for a demonstration. If your opponent is passive, such as Ports or for example Dutch, you can ally yourself with the France. And what the France consulate does is that it allows you to send 400 food crates for export. Which instead, because with China you do age very late. If you go for the France consulate, you can age up around 3 minutes and 10 seconds. However, if you are going for the Russian consulate, you are going to age up much later, around 3:30 to 3:40, depending on if you found any food treasures or if you had a good H1. I, for the side, did not have a good H1 because I was, again, running from point A to point B. So this was pretty much the worst H1 you could get. See, it's like a 3:30 and I'm only having around 700 food, and I do idle my town center for quite a while because I do want to age up, as you see. My opponent, on the other hand, went for the 10-10, is nearly H2 already. And in terms of the wonders, there's pretty much two options. You can either age up with the Farmer Palace or with the Porcelain Tower. Both of which are a solid option. The Porcelain Tower is more if you expect more of an H2 regression happening. The Summer Palace is more of the wonder that you want to go with if you want to go for your fast fortress. And once you have clicked the Age Up button, you pretty much want all of your villagers on food besides 2 to 3 that you want to split onto coin, which then you want to mine 300 coin in total. I got some coin treasures, that's why I only need to chop 205 instead of 300. And in terms of, and if you ever wondered how the scaling works on the wonders, is that each of the first 4 villagers that you task on the wonder is each saving off yourself 10 seconds. And the other 4 villagers, because you can only build a one with 8 villagers in total, and each villager afterwards is going to save yourself 5 seconds on the age up time. So if your age up time was, for example, 100 seconds, and you set yourself 4 villagers on it, the age up then is 60 seconds. If you get another 4 villagers on it, it would be then 40 seconds. Just for clarification. And once you have reached the 3rd age, again, I was going with the consulate, with the Russian ones. And with the Russian ones is, as soon as you have 250 export, you do want to send yourself the blockhouse. The blockhouse going to go somewhere defensively, ideally where your hunts and your mines are. And even more ideally, it needs to be inside of the town center range. Because if it isn't, your opponent can siege it pretty much for free. Once you have reached the 2nd age, you want to send 700 coin into 700 wood. There's also some adaptations where you can send, for example, 7 step ladders first to idle your opponent for some time. For example, if you are fighting against Dutch, it can be advisable to send 7 step ladders first to keep your opponent in check, for either buying yourself some time or for forcing some military shipment out of your opponent's side. I for that sent in 700 coin pretty much immediately because I knew that there was nothing really I could do to slow down his age up time because I was very far behind on the tempo. China is a very slow civ to start with. I was slowly on the block of wagon because I was busy with my explorer around. But I ended up placing it over here. And in terms of age up wonders from 2 to 3, there is again 2 options that you have. You can age up either with the Confusion Academy, which gives yourself as age up bonus 8 skirmishers. I recommend them if you want to age up with that one. So whenever you have any pressure on your side, that's the one of choice that you want to go and age up with, the Confusion Academy. Otherwise, you want to age up with the Porcelain Tower. What the Porcelain Tower does is that it gives yourself resources. And once the coin have arrived, you pretty much want to collect it. And once the wood have arrived, you want to down collect it until you have clicked the age up button. Because time is of the essence. And in terms of how many words you want to get on the wonder, it's 8. And also always keep in mind that you can train villagers in transition, as all Indian, Asian, as all Asian civilizations can. And with that wood, you want to get yourself 2 houses and a military academy. Houses, aka villages. I do this one over here because it does protect my hunt. And the cop mine is also very close nearby. As there's not much happening, you can use your cavalry to either scout or to keep your opponents occupied with the first batch. And once you are in A3, you can change the batch to the porcelain army, I think it was. And once you have reached the 3rd age, you want to change the porcelain tower to wood. Because this one is pretty much going to be your wood income for the entirety rest of the game. The wood is going to be used for some market upgrades. You can build a market with it, and it's also going to be used for your entire housing problems that you are going to have. Because China does have pretty strong shipments overall, 10 arquebusiers, 10 Chengdaos, 5 meteor hammers, and also intervention. And once you do the 3rd age, you want to get rid of the Russian consulate. Then there is like 2 options that you can go for. You can either go for the German consulate, which gives yourself some coin trickles, coin wood and food trickle, that you can research with your export. Or most of the time you want to go for your British consulate, which gives your units 7% hit points, which is very good overall. And you also get yourself some musketeers, because China does struggle against anti-cavalry. Because your only anti-cav is pretty much going to be Chengdaos or your own cavalry. Most of the time you want to send your 10 Chengdao swordsmen, 10 arquebusiers, and then you can push. Or you can send yourselves the 10 arquebusiers, 10 Chengdao swordsmen, and 5 meters and then push. There are a lot of windows of opportunity that you can use to push your opponent. So, I've got myself 11 Chengdao and 13 arquebusiers. And I was a little bit sloppy here because it's those... Remember what I said about the Spanish dogs that they shadow tag? Same applies also to your Chinese hero. Your Chinese hero can train disciples, which also shadow tag, and you can also unlock some, make them more potent in the church equivalent. I'm not sure what it is. The monastery was. They're like some crit chance and all the juicy stuff. And those are actually considered shock infantry. So they are very good against skirms. And they also get countered by dragoons. So shock infantry is essentially your cavalry on foot. And in terms of army that you want to make, it's pretty much always going to be the territory army and your cav batches. Either the cavalry plus the skirmishers or the double cavalry one. And if you see the organ guns, if your opponent has any artillery, you don't have to panic. You do have options against it. Firstly, there is the meteor hammers. Because meteor hammers are pretty strong, 34 hand attack, and have a 34 bonus percentage against artillery. But you see those artilleries are very defensively positioned. Means that you cannot push into that. You still do have another option, which means you can make yourself some hand mortars. Hand mortars are not very strong against artillery, because they are a hybrid against between mortars and culverins. However, they do have substantial range. That's like, I think, the same range as mortars have. And they only cost 2 population. So as soon as I see the organ guns, I am going to build a castle, which then enables me to train those said hand mortars. I did decide, like, at some point you will find yourself that you have more wood that you can spend. Then it's up to you what you want to use that wood for. Because I do to get all the market upgrades, and once you have all of those, you can decide on if you want to either get a second or third trading post if you're on the trading post map, or you can get some water. But because my opponent has a pretty heavy water deck, I decided to not overcommit on the water, but to only make like 2 or 3 fishing boats. So if my opponent decides to age up with something that counters water, then I don't really need to invest some more into it. Because essentially all I used into it was like 200 wood in addition to 2 times 770 wood. So 340 wood in total. And he pretty much invested 400 resource into it. So this one is a net bonus for me. And I also gain that amount of food that I collect over there. There you see the hand mortars are getting trained, which enabled me to kill down his organ guns pretty much, but also enabled me to siege down his buildings from afar. As you see, there's not really much damage here. Only 30 siege damage against that organ gun per shot. Does take a bit for them to go down, but eventually they will go down. There it goes. Now they're all down. Yeah. I see I'm heavily over collecting food. And also the endpoints does come very much so in handy. Keeps us alive just a little longer. And yeah. That is pretty much the opening that I wanted to show you, wanted to teach you. Very strong A3 Civ. And once the ball gets rolling, it's really hard to get it done. And as you see, the water battles do kind of many as the hunts run low on the map. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed that Fast Fortress opening from China. There's a lot of variables on the little things, but this is very heavy matchup dependent on, because China also have a card which sends the Step Riders and Keshiks for a food price, which is also a pretty good card, for example, that you can exchange the Saiga Herd for. I like to have the Saiga Herd because it's a very good emergency shipment, just in case if you run out of food. If there's like no food on the map, you can send this and then pretty much are good to go. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you then in the next one.